G'day everyone, my name is Ronan Koster and this is my pitch for the BCM217 assignment 3, making a documentary. The documentary that I've decided to create is going to be called The Pigeon Club and features a lot of stuff regarding my own family's personal history with pigeon racing and other sorts of things. It'll be very interesting. In 2022, a young man by the name of Ronan Koster embarks on a quest to learn more about his family's history, particularly that of his late grandfather Olpa, who did many things including pigeon racing. Ronan will explore the history of pigeon racing and how it came to Australia, as well as how his grandfather got involved in it through interviews with family members and observational journeys. How did pigeon racing impact the family? What did Olpa's legacy leave behind? Find out all this and more in the Pigeon Club. The mode of representation that I'd like to use for this project is a mix of participational and observatory. I would like to have some parts where I'm actually detailing history in terms of how pigeon racing evolved, developed, where it came from, how it came to Australia, and then also how it got into my family, how it ended up in our backyard. But then I will be looking at actually talking to family members, interviewing them, and also going through some of the actual areas where the pigeon lofts were created and actually exploring the history for myself, being there and making comments about what it's like to actually have family who do this. The production will be set into 3 different stages. We will have a pre-production, which is what we're currently in, production, and then the post-production. Pre-production consists of a couple of different things, including planning the structure of the documentary, potentially the narrative if there is going to be one, creating the scenes, planning the shots, scheduling interviews, scripting if there is any necessary, and then we get into the production, which will involve, of course, the actual shooting of the scenes, recording material, and potentially also some green screen footage, similar to the vein of some of the previous video essays I've done for other university assignments. I really like that format and want to bring it into this documentary. Production will also include a bit of B-roll, a bit of on-scene content for the more participatory aspects. Lastly, we have post-production, which will be the editing, figuring out the aesthetic, adding music, crafting it all together, which I actually love doing. I love editing, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then of course, posting it on YouTube and finalizing it all for you guys to watch. Now, when it comes to ethical concerns, I've been thinking about this a lot more because this is me dealing with a very personal subject for family and for the history of the family and whatnot. My grandfather's not here anymore. He passed away in 2020. One of the last things I would want to do is make him look really bad, just because he was overly passionate about flying pigeons and got family involved when they may not have always wanted to be. So I'm going to have to work very carefully around that. I want to get the best possible story from family who are still here to talk about it and hopefully educate you guys on what it's like to have a family that did in fact raise pigeons at one point in their life. A lot of the inspiration for doing this comes from other YouTube documentaries I've seen from channels like The Internet Historian, who does these incredibly great animated, edited videos narrating histories of different events that have occurred on the internet. They're very cool, very engaging, often very funny, but still very factual, and I want to try and do something similar to that with this part of the documentary. The second format is of course the interviews, which will be thrown into the documentary as well, and they will be done with family members in a way that is very similar to how I did my first interview with Harrison for the first assignment. I like to utilize the same sort of camera and audio equipment. It does really well and will come up with a very professional result. And a lot of the interviews will be inspired by other documentaries I've seen in the past, like Tiger King, where they interview the craziest people, and also Return to Space, where a lot of the astronauts and engineers are interviewed. The final part of my documentary will be the participatory part, where I'm actually on location, being filmed, walking through some of the historic pigeon lofts and areas where there is a lot of sort of history with that sort of thing in my family. And I look forward to getting that up there, and a lot of the inspiration for that comes from other documentaries I've seen, like that Sugar film, where the guy who's doing that documentary is actually directly addressing the audience and is clearly quite involved in what's going on. And also Aaron Burton's My Mother's Village, where he goes into his own family's village and interviews people he remembers meeting there and who his mother had met there. if I am correct about that. Very well done, and I'd like to sort of do that with my own family here in Wollongong. So yeah, that's just a rough idea right now of what my documentary, The Pigeon Club, is going to look like. Now, I've put together a 1 to 2 minute concept of what I hope it will eventually turn out to be somewhat like, and so without further ado, please check it out and enjoy. Pigeon racing. It's a thing. A very strange thing at that. Who would ever think that you could just get a bunch of these birds and make them race each other? Well, my granddad did. Or as I knew him, Opa, which is Dutch for grandpa.
Many of you would also know that my father had a lifelong hobby, a passion that often would come first, to the great annoyance of the family, pigeons.
We weren't allowed to play in the backyard at times because Opa would be out flying the pigeons, and any loud noises or sudden movement would screw up the whole thing.
Alright, here we are, arriving at my favourite place besides Rashay's, the Taroji Pigeon Club.
This was the Taroji Pigeon Club. This is my grandparents' house. These are pigeon lofts. And that was not a coincidence.
I don't know what the original spark was, but at some time in 1964, Dad asked his parents if he could build a loft in their backyard. I believe my mother argued with him, saying that they couldn't afford it. But he stubbornly did it anyway. This was one of Dad's traits.
This is the trophy that I got from Opa after he passed. Look at that. South Coast Pigeon Federation 2013. John Koster. The pigeon racing, it's not going to be missed by anyone in the family. And I genuinely can't blame them for that.